Welcome to This Week in Education Law, where I share up-to-date court decisions from the perspectives of educational administrators and policymakers. This is episode 44. In this episode, I'll introduce a recent court decision made by the South Carolina Supreme Court about a school district's negligent supervision of a teacher's misconduct and the requirements for proving liability for emotional harm in educational settings. Here is the background of the case. KS was a first-grade student in Richland School District 2, South Carolina. KS experienced a series of troubling incidents with his teacher during the 2011 school year. The teacher was described by one school administrator as no-nonsense, loud, and gruff, and the teacher had 30 years of experience. The first documented incident took place in the school's media center in late September 2011. According to court records, the teacher publicly humiliated one of KS' classmates to the point where the student broke down sobbing. The media center director and her assistant reported this incident to the principal. The principal did not follow up or address the issue at that time. When later questioned about this and similar incidents, the principal testified that he did not recall hearing about them. In fact, the principal used phrases like, "I don't recall," or similar words 24 times during his testimony. This incident is particularly important from an administrative liability perspective. The media center director and her assistant both witnessed the incident and followed proper reporting channels by notifying the school principal. This report established a documented record of the teacher's concerning behavior. The incident demonstrated the teacher's pattern of behavior that would later escalate with the student KS. The lack of administrative response became a very important element in establishing the school district's potential liability. From an administrator's perspective, this incident illustrates what legal scholars often refer to as the notice problem in school liability cases. The notice problem is a key principle established in the U.S. Supreme Court case Gabser v. Lago Vista Independent School District, 1998. It established the legal requirement that a school district or its employees must have had actual or constructive knowledge of a potentially harmful situation in order to be held liable for failing to address it. Essentially, this means that once school administrators receive notice of potential misconduct, they have an obligation to take appropriate investigative and corrective actions. In this case, the fact that both the media center director and assistant reported the incident creates what legal experts call actual notice, a key element in establishing institutional liability. The principal's response of "I don't recall" does not negate the fact that the notice was given. Courts often presume actual notice when credible testimony or documentation supports it. This initial incident sets the stage for what the court would later examine as a pattern of institutional failure to respond appropriately to documented concerns about the teacher's misconduct. Let's move to the second incident, which took place a few weeks later. The same teacher humiliated KS and reduced him to tears. This incident again occurred in front of the entire class and other school personnel. The media center director immediately reported the misconduct to the school principal. Again, the school principal did not take any immediate action. The school principal's inaction at this stage was part of the evidence that the school district failed to follow its anti-bullying policies and adequately address the teacher's misconduct. The third incident took 1 month later in October 2011. This represented an escalation in the pattern of concerning behavior and became a pivotal moment in this case. On October 20, 2011, KS accidentally dropped his lunch tray in the cafeteria. and the cafeteria worker helped him clean up and suggested he get another meal. The same teacher scolded KS very harshly and made him get another tray. When KS returned still crying, the cafeteria worker witnessed the teacher grabbed the students very forcefully by the arm while telling him, "I will give you something to cry for." The teacher then isolated the student at a table by himself. Later that day, the cafeteria worker reported the incident to the school administration. Upon this report, the school principal moved KS to another classroom the following day and initiated an investigation that ultimately confirmed all three incidents of the teacher's misconduct. The teacher was placed on leave and resigned in early November. According to the student's father's testimony, when the student came home that day, he was a different child. The psychological impact manifested in multiple documented symptoms: sleeplessness, anger issues, tearfulness, decreased energy, and shaking. Those symptoms ultimately led to a psychiatric diagnosis of persistent depressive disorder and anxiety. This October incident became central to the court's analysis of two key legal questions. First, whether the physical contact of grabbing the student's arm constitutes sufficient physical harm to support a negligence claim, and how to evaluate emotional harm in the context of school district liability. Let's look at how the South Carolina Supreme Court approached these two questions. First, rather than requiring visible injuries like cuts or bruises, the court established a more sophisticated standard based on physical impact from an external force. To illustrate this principle, the court drew a compelling parallel to cases of sexual abuse. A victim of sexual abuse may not show visible wounds, yet has undeniably suffered physical harm. This analogy helps school administrators understand that the absence of a visible injury does not preclude legal liability. In this case, the teacher forcefully grabbed the student's arm. It left no visible marks, but caused him physical pain. The court concluded that the teacher's forceful grabbing of KS by the arm to the point of producing physical pain was enough evidence to allow the jury to infer it caused sufficient physical harm to support a verdict for negligence, and the negligence plaintiff could recover damages for emotional harm if it is accompanied by physical harm caused by an external physical impact. What can educational administrators learn from this case? There are three key takeaways: documentation and the importance of paper trails, constructive and actual knowledge, and timely intervention. First, when incidents occur, contemporaneous documentation serves as your institutional memory and the legal shield. In the KS case introduced in this video, the school principals repeated the inability to recall reported incidents, stating "I don't recall" 24 times during testimony, undermined the school district's defense. As the court noted, this pattern of memory gaps contrasted sharply with the clear documentation provided by the media center staff and the cafeteria workers who reported the incident. The second lesson is constructive knowledge, what you should have known given your position and available information. In this case, three separate incidents of the teacher's misconduct created what the court called a pattern of institutional notice. Even though the principal claimed not to recall those reports, the cumulative nature of the incidents created the pattern of institutional notice. It means that the school as an institution had enough information to reasonably infer a problem and take corrective action. Courts often apply the constructive knowledge in negligence cases. This standard holds that school officials should have known about the misconduct based on the information available to them or the circumstances surrounding the incidents. ignorance, whether claimed or genuine, it's not an acceptable defense when the information was reasonably discoverable. Also, the excuse of "nobody told me" is unlikely to hold up in court, particularly for administrators who have a duty to oversee and address issues in their schools. The third takeaway message is timely intervention. In this case, the repeated inaction, as seen with the principal's lack of follow-up after reports of misconduct, can be interpreted by courts as negligence or gross negligence. Administrators must act promptly and decisively when they receive reports of teacher misconduct or bullying. Equally important is the need to document all follow-up actions to ensure accountability and provide evidence of proper steps taken to safeguard students and address the issue.